We'll look at the front page of the Daily Telegraph. They are saying the Berejiklian government's spectacular health orders failure that allowed a limo driver to spread COVID is costing Sydney $1 billion a week, and there will be no help from Victorian-based Treasurer Josh Frydenberg, who has told businesses and casual workers on their knees there will be no extra federal assistance. Now, of course, we've seen the federal government basically underwriting the decisions of the states throughout all of this COVID business. Is it fair for Frydenberg now to say to the states, well, if you're going to do this, you have to pay for it?
Well, I think he's also in a very difficult decision, because one thing that we've seen throughout this pandemic is that state premiers have been allowed to ride their own race and call their own shots. It's very interesting. As we know, we had the state election here in Western Australia in March, where Labor Premier Mark McGowan was re-elected with an overwhelming majority. We saw that Anastasia Palaszczuk in Queensland, Labor was re-elected. We've got Dan Andrews in Victoria, and these three strong Labor premiers are singing from the same hymn book. And I really think that this is almost a consequence with Josh Frydenberg, where you can't have your cake and also eat it too. I would like to think that depending on how New South Wales goes, because they have done a great job for so long, I guess Murphy's Law, something like this was always bound to happen, but I would think that maybe there will be a softening of the language as to how this goes, as to perhaps whether there will be some federal assistance that will come further. Remember, we were told that the JobKeeper wouldn't be continued, and then we had the lockdown in Victoria, and the $500 payments and the $320 payments were re-implemented. I think they need to really see how this goes, because while it is an outbreak, they've reached the stage where you can't kill this virus, and I think it was their health minister that has said, and as you said, Dominic Perrottet, the Treasurer, has said, we almost learn to live with this.
We'll go to the Herald Sun and the Tiser next, which both have the same yarn on the front page. Jab that starts the nation. Melbourne Cup Day will be the start of Australia's march towards COVID freedom. As the latest data reveals, it's the date we will have enough vaccine for herd immunity. A new assessment has shown that by November 2, there will have been enough doses given or available here to protect 80% of the eligible population. Now, you know that it's the worst day to back a horse is Melbourne Cup Day. It's the hardest day to back. Do you reckon we can back the idea that we're actually going to hit this critical point where we can open everything up again by Melbourne Cup Day?
Well, first of all, for the Herald Sun, terrific headline. And I think, look, I think as you say, I think we will. I think we will reach that thing. But what I mean, as I said, I'm an executive producer for a morning show. My views on this program are my own as well. But what I would have liked Scott Morrison to have said with this four-phase plan that he announced earlier in the week, I would have liked him to have said something a little bit more concrete as to the date that we will actually open up and be ready for business. Because I wonder we know that there will not be any vaccine supply problem come November. But as I said earlier in my rambling introduction to you and to all the viewers, but when Australians reach that magic milestone, whatever it will be, will we then be willing to accept that when our country does open up, yes, there will be COVID cases that come in, but like our Prime Minister has said, will we be in the position mentally to accept that we need to deal with COVID-19 as dealing with the flu? I don't know whether we will or whether we won't, and whether things will just keep being pushed out. But I think the line in the sand needs to be drawn to say, right, Australia needs to open up on this date. You need to make sure that you're vaccinated. If you're not, well, then you choose your consequences. But we need to get this country open, because at the moment, your generation is saddled with the $130 billion job seeker and JobKeeper package that was done. We don't have a money tree. Money doesn't grow on trees, and people are not looking at the economic long-term ramifications of what our well-intentioned actions are doing to this nation.